Hello and welcome to this video tutorial on the SMT. In this video, we are going to look at the reports functionality in the SMT. So we are going to understand the different types of reports, how to generate each one of the reports, and how to interpret the information that comes in the report. This video tutorial applies both to administrators and to SMT store operators. I'm going to now log into the SMT to show you the different types of reports that we have. So I'm accessing now as a country admin. If I go to here, the reports tab, I can see I have a variety of reports: arrivals, issues, physical count and adjustment, stock management summary, and so on. If I switch from administrator to store operator, and I come to reports, I can see I have exactly the same reports. So access to reports is dependent on your level. So if you are, for example, at the national level, you are going to have access to all the reports of all stores in the country. So the national store, any subnational stores, districts, and so on. But it's not dependent on whether you are an administrator or a store operator. The reports are exactly the same for both roles. So we have different types of reports. So the first type is what we call transactional reports, which are basically a list of all the transactions that you have registered in a specific store. So we have arrivals, issues, and physical count and adjustments. These three reports work exactly the same. So the user just need to select the store for which you want to generate the report. So let's say, for example, for my national vaccine store, and then the period start and the period end. So I can generate a report, for example, for the whole year of 22. So from January and then I select the period, the start and the end. So I can generate a report, for example, for, let's say, since the 1st of January up to today. I click generate report and I get a list of transactions. In this case, I don't have a lot of data, so I only have 4 lines, but potentially you could have here hundreds of rows, so you can use these navigator buttons here to view more rows or to move from one page to another. This screen is just going to be a table with the details of the transaction. So you will have the date, the reference number, if there is any, what is the name of the product that was on the arrival, here on the arrival screen, the batch numbers, and then the details, expiry date, VVM stage, and so on. We can see the receipt type, the funding source if we have entered the data, and the number of doses that have been received, and then some information on the cost of those items. Here we can also filter. So this is particularly useful when we have reports that are very heavy, that we have like many lines. We can filter, for example, by product name. So if I'm looking only for BCG, I can search that. I can search according to batch number. I can search according to receipt type, and so on. And finally, also the report can be exported. So we have here an export button. So we can export this as PDF or as Excel. Okay. So the issued report and the physical count and adjustment are exactly the same. The only difference is the type of transactions that we are going to be able to see. So of course, on the arrivals, we are only going to see arrival transactions. On the issues, we are only going to see issuing transactions. And here we are only going to see physical counts or adjustments. But it's exactly the same. We select the store. We select the period. Let's say, for example, from 1st of June up to today. We generate the report. And we get a table with the lines. In this case, I only have one line, and with the different information. We can navigate from here, and we can export the file. In addition to these three transactional reports, we also have summary reports. So we have this one called stock management summary. So this is a little bit different in the sense that it's not going to provide information on specific lines. So it's not going to give you the details of when an item was received, for example, but it just creates some aggregates for a period. So here, if I select my store, for example, National Vaccine Store, I can select one or more product categories. If I don't select anything, it's just going to create a report including all categories, and I can select my start date. So this is quite useful to generate, for example, monthly reports. So if I want to have like a summary of what has happened during the month of November, I can select the start date on the 1st. The end date is going to be the 30th, and I generate my report. So in this case, as you can see, it's not going to give you individual lines that says like on this date you have received this BCG with this batch number, this VVM stage, and so on, but it's going to give you an aggregate. So for BCG, what was the opening stock at the beginning of the month? How much you have received, this is arrivals. How much you have received as returns or as others. How much you have distributed, how much you have wasted, whether you did any adjustment, and what is the closing balance at the end of the month. There is also a calculation of the average monthly distribution and some information on the cost of supplies. So this is, as we're saying, our summarized report. The same thing as with the other reports, we can here export it as a PDF or Excel, and we can also filter if we are looking for specific figures. The difference with this report as well is that we can also include sub-stores. So now I'm generating a report for the national vaccine store, but if I click here, include sub-stores, this will include the regional stores in the report as well. So I select that, I click generate report, and automatically I get a report that includes not only my national store, but also the information from the regions. I have here some more rows that I can visualize. So we see here for the regions, in this case we only have information from the South regional store, but if you have more regional stores that have entered their data, you will be able to see the other stores here and the summarized information for all of them. What is the opening stock for each of the items, how much they have received, how much they have distributed, and what is the closing balance. So it's a very good way of having an overview of what is happening in our lower level stores. These reports, the transactional reports and the summary reports, are providing like a picture of what has happened in the past. We also have another type of report, which is what we call the status reports. So we have the stock status and the storage status. These reports are going to give you like a snapshot of what is happening as of today. So if we go to stock status, to generate a report, it functions exactly the same. We just need to select the level for which we want to generate the report and the name of the store. And we can select the product category. In this case, it is mandatory to select at least one. So let's say that I'm going to select vaccine routine, and I generate my report. So this report is going to give me information of what is happening in my store as of today. So in this case, I have two items, BCG and BOPV, And I have here a chart that is showing me the stock status in number of weeks. So how many weeks of stocks I have for each one of these items. So I can see the stock in weeks and the anticipated date when my stock is going to get finished. And the same information, I have it here on the right. So I have the product name, the current stock in doses, the current stock in weeks calculated based on what we have entered is our need. Then we also have information on the expiry, the first expiry, if we have like different batches. And then we have the adjusted weeks of stock taking into account the expiry. So for example, for BOPV, our current stock in weeks is 26.9. The adjusted is 26.9. It means that we will be able to use those vaccines before the first expiry comes. However, for the BCG, we have right now too much stock. We have 263 weeks of stock, and our first expiry is in a few months, which means that we will not be able to use all this stock before the arrival of the expiry. So we expect that with our anticipated consumption, some of this stock is going to expire in our stores. So the platform is going to calculate the adjusted weeks of stock, and in reality, it is 103 weeks of stock. So the anticipated end is 24 November 2025, taking into account this adjustment. Okay. The same as with the stock management summary, is also possible here to include the sub-stores. So I'm going to generate the report. And this same information is going to be generated taking into account our lower levels as well. As with the previous example, here we only have data for one store, which is the South Regional Store. But if you have more stores, more regions, you will be able to see the data here. And it's the same thing you can see for each item. You have the stock in doses, and then you have a stock in weeks. And here the platform is going to provide information on the first expiry, the adjusted weeks of stock taking into account expiry, and the date of the anticipated end of stock. The same as with the other reports, we can here export the data in PDF or in Excel. The second type of status reports that we have is for the storage. So the storage status is also a snapshot of the situation as of today. So we select our store. We select the storage temperature for which we want to generate the report. We need to select at least one. So I'm going to just have a look at my fridges and walk-in coolers. So I select +5 and I generate the report. So I get a report with the different items that I have in the stock and how much is being occupied by each one of them. So basically here I have BCG. This is the number of liters that my BCG vaccines are occupying, and this is the percentage of the total capacity that the BCG is occupying. For BOPV, this is the volume in liters that the vaccine is occupying, and in percentage is a little bit less than 4%. And then we have a line that tells us the free or the available capacity in liters. This is how much space we have free as of now, and this is the percentage. So we have 79% of our capacity which is currently available. We have the same information on the left in this chart. So we can see here free, BCG and BOPV in a more visual way, but it's exactly the same data that we have here on the charts. As with the previous reports, I can include my lower levels stores. So this is if I'm currently at the national. If I click here, this is going to include level 2. So that will be my region. I click generate report and I get the same information. So for the national, this is the data, and then for the region, South Regional Store, this is the data. So I can see how much each one of their items is occupied in terms of volume in liters and in terms of percentage of the capacity and how much it is currently free available. So we have little bit more than 2000 liters available, and this is 87% of the capacity which is available in the South Regional Store. If I was having data from other stores, I just need to scroll down. I will be able to see that data as well. The next report is the ISC performance report. This is immunization supply chain performance. So this is a report that is going to give us an overview of a set of key performance indicators for our supply chain. These are monitored and measured on a monthly basis. So I will select the level for which I want to generate a report, the store, and then I can select the period. So as I was saying, this is monthly reports, so I cannot select a specific date, I can only select the month. So for example, for 2023, I can generate a report from January up to December. I click generate report, and it's going to give me a series of buttons here. So these are the key performance indicators that I can visualize through this report. The first one is the temperature. So for the IC performance report, we are going to repeat the same process. We will select the level of the store itself for which we want to generate the report, and then the period. As we were saying, this report shows monthly key performance indicators, so we cannot select the specific date. We just need to select the start month and the end month. So I'm going to generate a report, for example, for the last quarter of the year, starting from October up to December, and I click generate report. This is going to give me a series of indicators here, and from here I can select which ones I want to visualize. So for example, if I select temperature, I'm going to be able to see the temperature records that I have registered. So for each equipment, this is for example my walk-in cooler 01, I will be able to see the number of low alarms, high alarms, the maximum temperature each month, and the minimum temperature each month. The same as for the fridge 01. So in both cases, it seems that for October, we have not entered any data. Then for November, we can see the information is here. And for December, we can see as well. If I want to have a look at the cold chain equipment functionality, I select this other indicator and I can scroll down, or I can deselect temperature if I only want to see one indicator at a time. Here, this cold chain equipment functionality is just going to show the functional status of my cold chain equipment each month. Here we have the different temperature ranges, so I can select or deselect based on what I want to visualize. And I will be able to see for each equipment what was the functionality status during the month. In this case, it seems that in October, again, we didn't have any data registered, but for November and December, both equipment were fully functional. If we register an equipment that is not functional for a period of time, the functionality during the month is going to show non-functional, just to highlight that there was a specific period where the item was not available. And then the second part of this report, the downtime percentage, is going to calculate based on how long that item was unavailable during the period. We also have the indicator of wastage. So this goes, of course, according for each vaccine. So we have our 3 months here, And we can see that in the month of November, for example, we have a wastage rate of 1.25%. In December, we had zero wastage. So this is for BOPV. The second part of the report here is going to tell us what was the wastage reason. So in this case, it seems that all the wastage that we have registered is due to expiry. We have another indicator, which is full stock availability. So basically, this is just going to tell us whether the different vaccines that we have in store were fully available during the months. So we have the same thing. In October, we were not using the SMT yet. We don't have any data for October, but we have data for November and December. And we can see that the two items that we have in our stock were fully available both months. If we had any stock out, then the chart will show orange color in the respective month where the stock out happened. This indicator goes together with the next one, which is the number of days out of stock. So if I select this other one, stock out days, I will be able to visualize how many days the item was available or how many days the item was out of stock. So in this case, we can see, for example, in November, the item was available for 30 days, so for the full month, and the number of days out of stock was 0. For December, we see that the days available is 4, days out of stock is 0. This is because today it is 4th of December, so we only have 4 days to measure. But as the month progresses, if we generate the report again, it will keep adding the days and it will tell us 20 days available, 0 days out of stock, or so on. And the same we can here generate for the different reports, for different vaccines. Finally, we have our stock according to plan. So this indicator is going to show us the stock levels compared to the minimum and maximum recommended levels. In this case, we have, for example, BCG, and we can see that the maximum recommended stock for BCG is 77,000 doses. The minimum stock is 30,000 doses. However, the actual stock that we are keeping is way higher. It's above 1,000. So this gives us an indicator probably that there's a data issue here because we don't have, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So either there is a problem with the stock that we have at the moment in our store, or there is a problem with the calculation of the minimum and maximum levels. I'm going to select the other vaccine. So I have BOPV. This chart makes a little bit more sense. So here we can see that the maximum stock is 293,000. So 293,000. Then we have the minimum, which is 117,000. And the stock levels at the beginning of October, it was 0. Then it went to 390. So right now we're a little bit overstocked because we are above our minimum. And finally, we can see the last indicator, which is what we call forecasted demand versus issues. So this indicator is just going to compare how much we have forecasted that we are going to need every month with how much we have actually utilized every month. So this is our forecasted need here. So per month for BOPV, we have calculated that we are going to need 63,000, but in reality, for October, we don't have any data yet. For November, we only used 10,000, and December, we haven't used anything yet. So in reality, we are utilizing way less than what we forecasted we were going to need. If I generate for BCG, but we don't have any data for BCG. These indicators, we can also generate them for multiple stores at a time. So if I select here sub-store and I click generate again, I have my indicators. So I can click on the indicator I want to visualize. For example, for temperature, I can see the information from the national store, and then the information for the regions. In our case, we don't have any data here, but instead of having gray, if our regional stores have entered the data, we'll be able to see here the same as with the example at the national level. When the number of alarms is 0, you can see that the chart is green, and when you have one or more alarms, the chart becomes red. For cold chain equipment functionality, it's a similar chart. So if the items, we can select here the different temperature ranges. If the equipment items were fully functional during the month, you can see the chart is going to be green. If any of the items was not functional during the month, you are going to see that the chart will become red, and it will give you the name of the equipment that is not functional for that month. If the store has not entered any data, then you will see gray. Same for the wastage. We can see here for a national vaccine store, we have 1.25% wastage of BOPV, and the reason for wastage was expiry. For our South Regional store, we can see there is no wastage, the chart is green. So most of these work in the same way. We just have some color coded. If the situation is considered okay, you are going to see that your table is green. If there is anything that you need to pay attention to, it's going to be either yellow or orange or red, just like a different color to kind of like highlight that there might be an issue. The next one is the full stock availability. So here we can see we have our national store and we have 3 regional stores. We can see that the items were available for some of the months, but there is a stock out here for the South Regional Store for the month of December. So if I put my mouse there, I can see that the details. So the item that was out of stock was BOPV, and it was out of stock for 1 day. And finally, I can go to the stocked according to plan report, and the same, this is going to summarize the information into a chart. If the item was between minimum and maximum stock, so within recommended levels, the chart is going to show green. If the item is above maximum, so this is overstocked, the chart is going to show yellow. And if the item is understocked, so below the minimum recommended level, the chart will show red. When no data is available, we have gray. So here we can just select the items that we want to visualize, and the situation will change. After the ISC performance, we have another report, which is the supply adequacy. So to generate the report is the same process. We just select the store. We are going to select the product category, and this is an indicator that is annual. So we cannot select a specific period or month because it's a report that runs from January to December. So it's basically going to compare your need for the year, so how much stock of the specific vaccine you have calculated that you are going to need, and how much you have actually been supplied during that year, how much you have received. I'm going to generate this report. And we are looking here at BCG. So it seems that the need of BCG is this line. This is like cumulated. So of course, by February, you are going to need more than in January, in March, a little bit more, April, a little bit more. It like keeps accumulating. And the dark blue represents how much you have actually received. So it seems that in this case, for the whole year, this store did not receive anything at all. And then suddenly, at the end of the year, in the last quarter, they received way more than what they needed, like a huge quantity. If we generate this for another vaccine, so we are going to see this other information that is probably a little bit more realistic. So this is the annual need that we can see is like a constant slope. So like cumulative need. This is at the beginning of the year. This is how much you needed at the end. And the dark blue represents how much it has been actually received. In this case, it's important to understand as well that we have started using the SMT towards the end of the year. So that's why also we don't have this data available here. So this is an indicator that is going to be much more useful when you are able to have a look at all your arrivals that you have received from January to December, so you can actually compare what you have been receiving during each month or each quarter with your actual need. And finally, before that, this report, the same as the previous, we can also include the substores and generate a report. It's going to show the same information with the difference in format. So instead of showing the chart, it's just going to show a table, but with the same information. What is the total annual need? How much has been received to date? And what is the supply adequacy percentage? And the last report that we have is our cold chain equipment. So this cold chain equipment is basically like an inventory report. So we can select the level, select the store, generate the report, and it's going to give us a list of the items, cold chain equipment and the storage that we have in our national vaccine store. So we can see here the different categories. So we have some dry storage, some ultra low freezers, some walk-in freezer, and so on. We have the storage temperature, the equipment name, the capacity, gross and net, date of installation, date of last mapping, and then the status, whether it's functional or not functional. From here, we can filter if we want to look for something specific, and we can also export. This is quite interesting because we can also include the substores, and in this case, if we include substores, it's not only going to include the next level. So for example, if we generate the report at the national level, it's not only going to include the regions, but it's going to include everything, all the stores that are below the national. So this is quite useful if we need to generate like a full inventory report of all the cold chain equipment that we have in the country. So we can just generate the report again, and you can see it gives us the information of the storage equipment that we have in our regions as well. In this case, we have only entered data for one region, the South Regional store, but if you have entered data for all the regions, all the districts, and so on, you can here visualize the full picture of what you have available. And the same as with the other reports, we can also export here as a PDF or as an Excel. So this is all when it comes to the different reports. I hope this video tutorial has been useful. I hope these reports will help you to monitor your supply chain and to manage your stocks using the SMT. And we'll see you in the next video tutorial. Thank you for listening.